If you use a single standard to grade your students' languaging, you engage in racism.
It's racist to teach black kids standard English. That perpetuates white supremacy.
Yes, that's the idea.
So I guess teaching black kids standard American English is somehow racist these days. You really can't make this stuff up, y'all.
What made you think something was wrong?
Well, I thought something was wrong for a while. I didn't realize how wrong it was until 2019, when a keynote address at the primary conference for my field, college composition and communication,
Melt the steel bars of racism and white language supremacy.
The keynote argued that, among other things, teaching standard English to students of color, particularly black students, is inherently racist.
The irony of it all is that as this man calls standard English racist, he's using it. So does that make him racist?
If you use a single standard to grade your students' languaging, you engage in racism.
It's racist to teach black kids standard English. That perpetuates white supremacy.
Yes, that's the idea, right? And even the presence of white professors is a problem. That does some kind of psychic harm to students of color.
Again, I say it all the time, y'all. These people profess some form of compassion, but when you dig to the root of what they're espousing, especially for minorities, it always harms us ultimately. But nowadays, there's so many people who have been indoctrinated to believe these ridiculous ideas that they actually think that they're good. It's like abortion. The idea of killing your own offspring, murdering your own children in the womb is somehow a good thing. And it's something that women are entitled to do, to the point to where they call it health care. Like it's something good. Good for who? Not for the baby. The baby dies. It suffers and dies a brutal and horrific death. I wish more and more people would just really examine these radical leftist ideas and to see them for the foolishness that they really truly are. It's just really sad. But continue listening, because listen to what he had to go through as he actually had the nerve to actually speak out and call this for the wrong that it is.
So I heard that, thought it was a bit misguided.
A bit. That's the understatement of the day.
And said so on a listserv in my field, the writing program administrators listserv. I put it out there basically in a long form way, asking, is this really a good idea? Is this the best way to go about this? And what ensued was hardly a conversation. It was more like a social media mobbing session.
Instead of a discussion.
That's what they do. When you can't make a good claim, can't make a good argument to defend your perspective, start mocking, start calling names, start attacking the individual. That's what they do. They become masters at it. And that's what they use that over the last few years to silence people from actual debate, which is why you have social media sites taking down contradictory or contrary ideas. Because a lot of these leftists have a lot of money, whether it's through academia or whether it's through advertisements with a lot of these social media organizations, social media companies. They don't want these advertiser boycotts. So how do they respond? Oh, if you say XYZ, you say such and such, we're going to take down your content or we're going to demonetize your channel. So you can't make these ideas. You can't make these statements. I guess the best way to put it, they're literally masters of manipulation, masters of evil. Again, don't engage people reasonably, attack them. So now, and then once you get the madness of the crowd going after these people, most people just shy away from the conversation. They won't even talk about it. They'll just back down. It's effective, evil, but effective.
People called you racist. Do you enjoy using Western modes of argument to invalidate people of color?
Again, listen to the irrationality of what they're saying. Do you enjoy using Western modes of argument to invalidate people of color? This is a person of color. Just take their words to their logical conclusion. This is a black man talking, making a point. And here you have whoever this was using argumentation in order to invalidate this black man speaking, a person of color. I'm telling you, logical consistency is foreign to these people because they speak in echo chambers, and it's belittle the person making the argument because they cannot truly deal with the argument itself.
Check your privilege.
Yeah. Oh, that old chestnut.
Telling the black man to check his privilege. Silly.
Check your privilege. Yeah, that happened. And it happened because what they saw in me was a bigger threat than anything they've seen before. A black person saying it's okay to teach black students standardized English.
Why is
And this is part of the reason why I think that when you have a black person, especially a public figure, who comes out and they start openly sharing conservative minded or biblical talking points, it's pounce. Man, they just open up the floodgates and people just come after them. And again, they have effective tactics because most people just want to make a point. They're not trying to create a big stir, cause a big argument. They just have an opinion, they share it, but I really believe that they actually have like a paid mob. It's like the riots we see over the years. Every time there's a specific agenda or idea that pops up, defund the police, abolish the police, Black Lives Matter. Before you know it, there's some massive mob. Everything we're seeing with this pro-Palestinian protests and riots around the country, I think that there is a cabal, a unified group of millionaires and billionaires who come together and organize to attack specific ideas or individuals in order to win the argument, so to speak. You win the argument by silencing the other side.
that a threat?
It's a threat because when a white person does it, oh, of course you don't understand this. But when I do it, it's a more difficult challenge, right? So they have to, pull out all the stops.
In my full interview with former diversity officer Eric Smith, he gives more insight about what turned him against DEI training.
That should be quite interesting. I'm going to share the link below. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Personally, I'm not a fan. Well, if any of y'all have followed my channel at all, I'm definitely not a fan of DEI. I'm definitely not a fan of this whole diversity training where you lower the standards. Anytime you lower the standards because you feel as if a certain group of people can't make that standard, you don't do them any favors. It's like in the military when they were really, the Army in particular, where they were really hell-bent on having a woman graduate Ranger School. And if you listen to anyone who was involved or knew anyone involved, you hear that they consistently lowered the standards in order to make sure that some of these women made it through. Because Ranger School is a mug, and it's got like over a 60% washout rate for young, healthy men who can't make it through. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any women to make it through, but when you examine I think there was a People magazine article, you can probably still find it online, but you heard consistently that they put these women through, these women were recycled more than they would normally allow anyone else to be able to do in order for them to be able to make it through. They turned a blind eye sometimes to some of their failures and let them squeak through. Some of the Ranger School cadre staff, training staff, were told that you will graduate X amount of females in your class, in one of your classes or in a few of your classes. So how does that help anybody? Now, Ranger School is one thing, it's primarily a leadership school. But if you're deployed in a Ranger battalion where you are an actual full-time Ranger, you're expected to be able to go to combat, go to war. And if they have to lower those high standards in order for a woman to be able to make it through, what's going to happen when you actually go to combat and the standards have been lowered? Again, I think DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, meaning equity, meaning equal outcome, not equal opportunity, it's destructive. And if you have been helped, and here we are in 2025, and we're still talking about equity. We just had a Black man serve 2 terms as president, and we had a minority female serve as vice president. Politicians across the country, minorities, and where we have more Black millionaires and more Black college graduates than ever before, and yet we still feel as if we need a special handout. I really believe that when it comes down to Blacks not faring well academically, I believe it's more of a cultural thing that begins in the home. Because back in my day, and I'm sure that it goes on in various communities around the country, but if a young Black person spoke or articulated themselves clearly or well, they were asked, why are you trying to act white? Or if a Black kid did well academically, they were called, oh, you're a sellout, Uncle Tom, and trying to act white because you're trying to do well in school. That's a cultural issue. And let's take an Asian or a Indian community, people from actual India. Academics are just at a different standard than they are in many Black communities. Now, I'm not saying that's universal. And I think that's the problem that a lot of young Black folks are dealing with, and why we don't always do as well as we should or could when it comes down to test scores. Don't change the standard. Figure out how we can help these Black kids to do better early on. Encourage their parents to read to them at an early age. Don't be smoking weed and drinking while you're pregnant, or smoking weed and drinking around your kids and having them watch music videos and YouTube all day long. Actually put a book in their hands and teach them something, so that we develop good practices early on, so that as we get older and we try to make something of ourselves, we're not working from behind. It ain't about slavery, y'all. It ain't about the civil rights movement. It's what are we doing right now? Because we had people who were able to excel 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 150 years ago, when there were literal laws on the books to oppress us. And if those folks can excel and win and succeed, there's nothing stopping us unless we've been indoctrinated to believe otherwise. Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. Before you go, hit that like and subscribe button if you appreciate my content. Check out this video right here where we discuss a very similar topic. I think you'll enjoy it.